Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, that's G-R-A-N, group, at edinarealty.com, or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners.
Men for the Win is part of the Pull Tab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all of your social media platforms at Pull Tab Sports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' 3-game series against the Baltimore Orioles. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins return home for a 6-game homestand. They started off, Dan, with a 3-game sweep of the struggling Baltimore Orioles. Can you believe it?
The Orioles don't look very good. I was really surprised at how bad that they looked. Given the fact, too, they had beaten the Twins, I think it was 10 games in a row. Twins had a sweep of the Orioles at home, I think, since 21. This was just a team that has generally had the Twins' number. And is it because the Twins took their second batting coach? Is that what happened? Or their second hitting coach and brought him over?
It could be. Or it could be that about 80% of the Orioles lineup is on the IL. That probably has something to do with it. But let's go with your thing. That's more fun.
Yeah, no, they did not look like a very good team. But we talked about that before, about whether the Tigers sweeping them really said anything more about the Tigers than it did about the Orioles. And I think it said a lot about the Orioles right now. They just didn't look in a good way. But hey, you'll take it when the Twins now are 18-20. They're just 2 games back. They're riding a 5-game winning streak. I think it's 10 of their last 11 wins at home. This is good. It's exciting heading into another interesting, fun series against the Giants, a team that you don't get to see every year.
No, and a much better team. So I think it's going to give us a little bit better picture of what this Twins team actually is. Now, and we should be careful here, Dan. You said 2 games back, but what you meant to say was 2 games under 500, not 2 games back.
Sorry, is that what I said? Yeah, I meant 2 games under 500. They're what, 6 and something back from the Tigers.
They're 7 back from Detroit, which is really frustrating after a series sweep. And the Rockies should have had Detroit beat. It was quite frustrating. I watched a couple of those games. They should have stolen at least 1 from Detroit. And I'm sick of it, Dan. I think Detroit and Cleveland are going to come back to earth eventually, though.
Maybe, but maybe the Central still is good. It's just that the Twins aren't one of the top 3 teams. But you look at the run differentials, this Twins team maybe is a little bit better than their record might show. So we'll see. Now, this was a big weekend for the Twins fans because Royce Lewis returned. And I got to say, I didn't check the receipts, but I'm pretty sure at our season preview, I called it that this would be the series that he came back. Now, they ran this 2 tickets for $23. It's an interesting idea, but when you're drawing like 16 to 20,000 people, I guess you'll do anything. And Royce's return was as good of a reason as any to try to bring people back.
Yeah, I think it was impressive the amount of buzz online, that it wasn't just like Twins accounts, but like MLB accounts, like the Fox MLB account, ESPN. All of those accounts were really promoting Royce's return. And I guess I still don't really put him in that superstar bucket because, again, the sample size, Dan. Like, I understand he hits a lot of home runs, or he has hit a lot of home runs in very impactful spots. But still, Dan, it's like everybody forgot that this man was healthy to end last season, and he was rough there.
You underestimate my power.
I mean, he did hit what? He didn't get a hit in this series. He got on base once. With some double plays. We're going to get to that in Puckett's picks a little bit later. Yeah, he was not great, but I think emotionally his return to this team mattered. He DH'd a couple games. He played third in the last game, which was good. Also, Willie Castro came back. It's just the lineup looked so much better with those 2 guys in it, even if the stats didn't back it up. This looked like the Twins lineup that we think could compete.
Yeah, I really think it was about the morale that it added to the team and less about their actual statistics and their performance on the field. Just to know we're that much closer to a complete roster, when really the only piece of significance that we're missing at this point is Matt Wallner. And even Matt Wallner is still sort of an unknown commodity until we get a little bit more details and statistics about longer playing time at the major league level.
One other note you had was about the website. You're upset, David. It's like you're like the guy who, when the newspaper comes and they've started to run like front page ads on it, or maybe they've changed the font type, that you're upset.
Yeah, well, first of all, don't even get me started on this Aptos for Microsoft Word that they've made a change to, Dan. I don't have time to talk about that right now.
Please attempt to be a gentleman.
I can't goat you into it at all. Like there's nothing I can do.
A little bit. I was quite frustrated. I liked Calibri. Lay off. I don't understand.
Isn't it Calibri?
It's
Calibri, right?
I don't know. How am I supposed to say it? Pronunciation has never been a strong suit. Pronunciation, geography, Dan. These are not topics that I really focus on.
Duluth is in North Dakota.
Yes, Duluth is in North Dakota. No, but the Twins website, first of all, you log on now, and the top third of the page is an ad, Dan, for other teams' merch. It's like a Padres hat and a Mets hat. And I'm thinking, who's going to MLB.com/Twins and says, you know what, I think I'm going to shop for a Dodgers hat today. And then they changed where the box score is. It's like, remember a couple of years back when MLB changed the box scores and I was furious?
Because they took off the left on base.
Oh my goodness, I'm still mad about that,
terrible.
Dan.
Yeah,
because I like to look that up sometimes when I'm trying to figure out who should be on the bench and like trying to remember how many guys people left on base. Like, spoiler alert, if Correa's at bat, there's probably 3 guys on base every single time. But my goodness, Dan, my goodness, Dan, I just wish when something is working, don't fix it. I don't understand. The website was working just fine. I know that you're trying to get as much cash as you can before you cash out poll ads, but putting on ads on the top of your website, why do you want people to hate you so much?
Fans want an ejection. There it goes.
And that was Gardy's gripe.
It's going to be a long episode. I got to do the rest by myself. We're not even to the series recap, David. We got to get moving.
Let's go.
Series recap.
All right. Finally, the Twins star players put together a great game together here. They win this one 9-1. Pablo Lopez, he threw a lot of pitches. He got into some trouble, or just some deep counts. But when you strike out 11 guys, as he did, you're going to get some deep counts. He goes 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned run. That's the weirdest combination to me. Just to have that many strikeouts in that few innings. Twins actually struck out 17 batters this time. And I think that was that showed me a lot about this Orioles team.
'Cause my chest is cold and my arms aren't.
Oh, Pablo. His voice is always surprising to me in the post games because it's always just a touch higher than I imagine it's going to be.
He looked so sweaty, too. After in that 5th inning, he was
Don't
really...
forget to bring a towel.
It was pretty impressive. Orioles, they get 1 run on a Ryan Mountcastle double, but it's really all Twins. By then, it was already 5-0. A big 3rd inning, an RBI double by Buxton. He didn't swing at the first pitch, didn't even get in his stance. That was weird.
I'm in the stance. I'm at this game, which, first of all, quick side note, Hogs was at this game too. We didn't know that. He sends a picture on our group text for the podcast, and where he sent the picture from, Dan, I thought he was in my seats. I was so confused. I'm like, did I send this picture? How did Hogs get this picture? And so I call him and I go, where are you sitting? And he goes, I'm in 113. I'm like, I'm in 114. He's 3 rows in front of me. We look ridiculous. I'm like, oh, you're here. But anyway, I'm watching this at bat by Buxton. And you know how sometimes, like, is it Juan Soto who will just take a pitch sometimes? Randy Arozarena, he'll do this, sure. Right? Where he won't even get in his stance. He'll just sit there and watch the pitch, or he'll step out of the box when the guy pitches, which I think if I was a pitcher, Dan, I'd hit him every time.
I feel like that's my equivalent of like when I'm playing MLB The Show and I'm like, I keep swinging at the first pitch, I'll just set the controller down in front of me so I can't even possibly press the button. Like that's the equivalent here, what Buxton is doing.
But I've never seen Buxton do that where, his stance is pretty pronounced. Like it's one of those stances that you'll see kids sort of mimic because
I would say my son mimics the Byron Buxton swing.
Well,
sure.
It's so long. You know what I mean? He's so tall with where the tip of the bat is and where his front leg is extended in front of him. But so for him to be just sitting there, not even getting in the stance, first of all, love it that he got a hit after he took a pitch that way. And I really want to know, was that intentional or was he truly just not ready or he wasn't interested in getting in his stance? Regardless, I thought it was great.
I think he's too tempted by those, curveballs or off-speed pitches that kind of start in the zone and then drop to the bottom because he's been laying off that. Maybe we're jumping ahead of ourselves into the segments, but I think that this speaks to his confidence right now that he's willing to do that. And I think that's a really good sign. In any case, So Buxton has that RBI double. Then there's a 2-run single by Jeffers and a 2-run big home run for Correa that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Bottom of the 7th, the Twins get the rest of the runs this inning with a 3-run home run by Buxton and a Correa RBI single. This is a great stat. The Twins finished 4 for 4 with runners in scoring position.
And their pitchers struck out, Dan, 17 Orioles batters. Now, keep in mind, a good number of those came from the bullpen, which we're going to talk a lot about later. But it was a fun game to be at, Dan, just because it just felt like the Orioles could not figure out how to hit the baseball.
Royce Lewis debuts. He goes 0 for 4. His first at bat is a ground into double play, which is kind of how the series went for him. He was probably robbed of a hit by Cedric Mullins, who had a lot of robberies against the Twins last year. Willie Castro also comes back. He has a walk, a single. He scored twice. And the Twins drew 19,779 fans, and I think all but 100 left when the Timberwolves game started, with the Twins up big next door. Did it actually empty? Did people really leave?
No, there weren't that many people who I think were there and then left. And I looked at ticket prices when the Twins game ended, so it was like almost halftime for the Wolves, because I was thinking about making my way over there. Still like $90 to get in the door at halftime.
Really?
Not interested in that, Dan.
Game 2, the Twins win this one, and actually game 3 by the same score, 5-2. SWR has a start here. We're going to talk about his line a little bit later. 4 2/3, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, 61 pitches. Interesting. Top of the 3rd, the Orioles actually started the scoring with a solo home run by Ramon Laureano, who is kind of the only Orioles hitter to really do much in this series. But the Twins answered with a Castro single, and then Clemens was hit by a pitch, and then a 3-run shot by Byron Buxton. And so the Twins are up 3-1.
Yeah, top of the 5th, and Laureano again hits a double, followed by a Kierstad RBI single. Makes it 2-3 Twins. And then Rivera, actually, he had a very good series also. He singles, so there's runners on the corners with 2 outs. And then Cedric Mullins comes up, and this is where Rocco takes out SWR, brings in Danny Coulomb, who strikes out Mullins to end the threat, which is great that it worked out. But it's also like, you're not even through 5 innings, and it's the first game of the series.
No, and as you said, the bullpen did hold well. Varland allows back-to-back singles with 2 outs, but then makes a really crazy play to get Jackson Holiday on a ground out. And I think Dan Hayes had said this well in one of his tweets, but we'll say he dove, he rolled, and then he did like a chest shovel pass almost to Ty France. A little bit like a hot potato, but Ty France holds on to it and gets out of the jam.
It was the weirdest looking play. Just watch Louis Varland's face when he throws the ball to Ty France, because it's like a look of like shock and also like, you're going to get it, right, man? You're going to get it, right?
I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
It didn't look like a baseball play at all.
No.
But we have seen the Twins pitchers make so many mistakes in just getting the ball to first base that I'm like, fine. We'll take it.
You were saying, Dan, this is like one step closer. Like, Dan's been really upset that the pitchers are doing like the full-on throwing 95 miles an hour to first base because they keep overthrowing the bag. So Dan has been the advocate of walking to first base and underhand tossing. They're not there yet, Dan. They're making baby steps towards that. And the next step in this progression is the Louis Varland chest pass hot potato.
I love it. I love it. Bottom of the 7th, the Twins add some insurance here. Royce Lewis walks, and then Harrison Bader comes in, hits a pinch hit home run. Now, there was a great article about him in The Athletic about just how comfortable he's looked in left after playing center for so long. But we did get a comment about Harrison Bader.
Min for the win mailbag.
Of course nobody needs mail.
So somebody was asking if we could call him the ultimate warrior because of the pastels, the long hair, the bandana, that he looks more comfortable jumping off the top rope than batting in the top of the order. I was not much of a wrestling guy. Are you?
No, I was into wrestling for like 4 months when I was 12. So I know Stone Cold Steve Austin and I know The Rock. And that's virtually it. And maybe Triple H are like the people who I sort of would recognize. I've tried, Dan, just because I'm curious, right? Netflix bought WWE or Raw. I don't understand how all of the wrestling stuff works for like $8 billion. So clearly a ton of people are watching this, Dan. I tried. I couldn't get into it. If you folks like it, good on you. I can't do it.
Well, Harrison Bader has been quite the signing, and you should go read that article on The Athletic about him. It was really quite good. Back to the game here, the top of the 8th. Jax is a little shaky in his standard setup role here. Allows a couple on, but he gets a big double play to finish out the inning. And then Duran, who we're going to talk about later, strikes out the side in the 9th. The Twins hold on 5-2.
Yeah, so game 3, same score. Twins win this one 5-2. Joe Ryan is actually scratched with the flu that Bader had, and that's why he got scratched from game 1. So Ober, who had supposedly recovered, which Rocco apparently just loves letting Ober pitch as soon as he gets out of the hospital.
Poor Bailey Ober. Like, the guy can't catch a break, and he's left out there to deal with a whole bunch of base runners and that.
Where did all these unsupervised children come from?
Anyway, so speaking of unsupervised children, more like unsupervised runners, Dan. So Ober goes 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Again, constantly runners on base in every inning. And oftentimes when we're doing these recaps, folks, we really only focus on like the really standout defensive plays or really the scoring plays or what we're trying to give you to kind of give you a taste for how the runs were scored. But my goodness, it's really important in this game for you to understand how often the Twins worked out of jams, specifically Bailey Ober. It was impossible, Dan, to score runs on this man somehow.
And I think if I'm an Orioles fan, that's the frustrating thing about this series and this game is that the Orioles had plenty of opportunities. The Twins just kind of wiggled out a lot. Now the Twins did strike early. Buxton walked. He stole second. This is in the bottom of the first. And then France hit an RBI single. That's what he does. We've got a stat about him for you a little bit later. It's 1-0. But then very quickly the Orioles tied up on a Laureano walk in the top of the second. Mayo walks. Then Rivera hits an RBI double. And so this is one of these situations. Runners in second and third, 1 out. But Ober is able to strike out Hanley and Henderson to end the inning. And so it goes. Top of the third, Holiday singles. O'Hearn hits a ball to Brooks Lee that looks like double play, but Lee does kind of his best, Eddie Julian impression, misplays the ball.
I truly thought it was Eddie Julian playing, and I'm like, I thought he got sent down to AAA, Dan.
It's like that Cardinals game all over again last year.
Yes.
So runners in the corners, nobody out. A sac fly, so Baltimore is up. But then Laureano doubles to put runners at second, third again. But then Ober gets 2 strikeouts again to end the inning.
So top fourth, Rivera singles, Handley singles. So again, 2 on, no out. Ober K's Henderson. Then he gets Holiday to ground into a double play. Lee redeems himself, plays this one cleanly after that earlier error, thankfully. And then top of the fifth, O'Hearn's hit by pitch. Mountcastle doubles. So now you got runners on second and third.
It's such a mess. Every inning here was such a mess.
Every single time, Dan. No outs. Ober pops out Laureano. He K's Kjerstad, and then he gets Mayo to ground out to end the inning. And at this point, I'm thinking, how is it possible that the Orioles have not scored like 8 to 10 runs at this point?
This really could have been an Orioles blowout. I pity the fans.
Oh, Dan, doing his best. Do some students call you Mr. T? Oh my!
Occasionally,
goodness.
but they're too young. They don't
get it. Okay.
They know him
I
from like
pity the
commercials.
fans.
Yeah, not from.
Can that please be your new thing? I pity the fans. Whenever
I pity the fans. Top of the sixth, Sands again getting to start an inning clean for once. Allows Rivera, who can't miss when playing the Twins, he gets a double. Henderson singles to Buxton, and then in center. And I think Buxton was slow playing this play here because he's not like it comes back to what we said about Buxton earlier, where he's playing with such comfort and such familiarity. Yeah. He throws a perfect strike to home. It's one of those where it's like everything lines up. The tag is perfect. The timing is there. They reviewed it. And then he was out. And I think that was a key moment of the game. The Orioles were about to be able to maybe get back into this game, and they weren't.
Yeah, Hogs actually texted that he was mad that Buxton threw home because it allowed the runner to advance to second. But when it came back that the runner was out, Hogs all of a sudden wasn't so upset.
Bottom of the sixth, Larnach gets a solo shot to tie it back up at 2. And then the bottom of the eighth, we're going to come back to later, but a big hit by Brooks Lee with a couple outs to make it 4-2. And then France follows up with an RBI single, and so the Twins win this one 5-2 with Duran closing it out.
And just as the Twins closed out that game, Dan, thankfully, winter has closed out as well. It's fully springtime now, Dan. It's time to think about dusting off the grill and inviting the neighbors over for a good old-fashioned barbecue. Lucky for you, Cub Foods is your one-stop shop for all of your grocery needs. With everyday fresh products and a wide selection, you'll be in great shape to host the next grill out with all your backyard essentials. Grab your fresh produce, deli meats, party trays, and bakery all in one stop. With over 100 locations in Minnesota, check out your local Cub on your next shopping trip for all your springtime essentials.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
I feel like we need to applaud the listeners here. They have finally been rewarded for their faith in the player who did pretty well the previous series. Byron Buxton is their pick, and they win with 18 points. They get the bonus as well, with 10 more than the 8 points that Correa got for Hogs. You picked Jeffers, who had 1. I picked Lewis, who grounded into a couple double plays and finished with -4.
Not a great series for Lewis in his return, Dan, but hopefully he's just getting his feet wet. He's getting back into the swing of things. he's going to be the guy we know him to be for that one stretch where he was really good. I'm sure of it, Dan. I'm sure that he's going to be that guy.
The season standings then, David, you maintain your lead with 5 points. Hogs has 4.5. I have 3, haven't had one since the third series of the season, and the listeners have 1.5 points. They've passed me in total points with 17. I have 12. Hogs is in the lead with 44, and David, you have 38.
That is quite the swing in the point totals there, Dan.
Not good for me.
No, let's keep pushing here. Beast versus bench.
Beast versus bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
Yeah, gosh, a 22-point swing. That feels awful. Speaking of swings, I'm going to talk about Ty France. He had 6 hits in this series, just a couple strikeouts, and then one stat to point out. So with runners in scoring position this year, he is batting .417. With 15 hits in those situations, 18 RBI. As a team, actually, the Twins are doing okay with that. As far as batting average, they're 7th in the league now with a batting average of .274 with runners in scoring position. Their OPS is a little bit lower. It's .749. I think that ranks 10th.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
Ty France, he gets up to the plate and there's guys on base. The man refuses to not allow those runs to score, Dan.
After all, miss, this is France.
And then you have something on the other side.
This was a difficult one because I think Buxton needs to be mentioned here. And this is what I want to say about Buxton. Sometimes I start to doubt that he's really one of the best when he's healthy. And it's because it's been so long since we've seen a stretch where he's fully healthy. He's playing in the field. He's hitting well at the plate. And my goodness, Dan, in this series, 4 for 10, 7 RBI, 2 walks, only 3 strikeouts, and a stolen base. I just think that him right now, being as loose as he is in the field, and you know what? Keeping that strikeout rate down, he's so good at baseball, Dan. You kind of forget how good he is when he's healthy.
But he's not even your beast.
No, he's not. It's the bullpen, Dan. This is ridiculous. 12 1/3 innings pitched, Dan. Who in their right mind in a 3-game series would expect 12 1/3 innings pitched out of their bullpen? No earned runs. How is that even possible? 2 walks, 17 strikeouts. I understand that the bullpen has underperformed in a lot of the earlier part of this season thus far, but this series, Dan, they looked like the bullpen that people projected them to be. They were untouchable.
Well, and it's the 17 strikeouts that really stand out to me. I mean, that they're just not even letting balls get hit into play. This pains me, but with my bench, I have to go with Royce Lewis. They're moving him down in the lineup. I think he batted 7th here, which I think is kind of where he belongs right now. I know that it's early. He didn't finish spring training and all that. And he was out there, at the end of game 3 when Brooks Lee hit that big hit in the bottom of the 8th. He's out there, basically whipping a towel around his head. Like, he's very excited. He's important to this team. At some point, he does need to actually start hitting the baseball.
That was a little harsh from you.
Well,
man.
It's like, I don't know. He doesn't look ready yet. So we'll see. We'll see. But in order for this team to be fully complete, they do need Royce to actually be a little bit better than what he was in this series. He didn't have a hit.
You were the chosen one.
That's what it feels like right now.
I'm going to go with the starting pitching, I guess. You shouldn't make your bullpen throw as many innings as they did. And I understand that Rocco's mindset here was to try and win these games when they were winnable. And so you have to go to the best arm in those circumstances. But those starters, Dan, be more in the zone if you have to be, especially when your team is up and they're capable of scoring runs, which right now, I understand not every game they're putting up 8 or 9 runs, but they've at least shown that they're capable. And if your team is capable of scoring runs and you know you have a good bullpen, you're going to have to throw some strikes just to get deeper in the game so you're not using the same bullpen arms over and over and over and over again.
And yet at the same time, they only gave up 5 runs in the whole series, and the starters didn't pitch poorly. They just pitched inefficiently, I suppose.
Yes. Well, that's the thing when you're looking at Pablo's line and you're like, well, he struck out 11. What do you want him to do here? Well, get deeper than the 5th. That's what I want him to do, and strike out 15.
All right, well, that's a good transition actually into the rewind.
Rocco's Rewind.
I think that Rocco has some inside joke with some of these starters, perhaps. It happened again in game 2 where SWR is out there. And I do agree it was probably the right call to pull him, given he had given up, I think it was 3 straight base runners, and you're clinging to a 1-run lead at the time. But the fact that he pulled another guy who was 1 out from qualifying for the win with 4 2/3 is just funny to me. It's funny that Coulomb came in and basically was able to immediately get out of the jam. But the part that I do wonder about is only 61 pitches. At what point does SWR earn the right to finish that out? Because it seems like there's something about him that he's just not going to let him in that spot, where I wonder if it's Bailey Ober or Joe Ryan or Pablo if they let him.
Well, Joe Ryan, we know he'd leave him out there. Like, no matter what happened. Like, Joe Ryan is staying out there as long as possible. And I do think if Pablo told him, no, I want to pitch to this next guy, I'm guessing that he allows Pablo to pitch to him.
But like, does SWR say that to him? Does he say, hey, Rocco, like, can you just let me? Or does because SWR said, I mean, we've seen him wink at opponents. We've seen him like kiss opponent, like little, like, I don't know.
I would say that SWR is still very new to the MLB, and I don't think he has sort of garnered the right to talk to Rocco in a manner that would say, no, I'm going to stay on the mound now, Rocco. Thank you for making the trip.
What do you have for Rocco?
Yeah, so like it was bold in game 2 to go to the bullpen early, but it worked out. But here's my question, Dan. Well, I want to start with the praise for Rocco. Okay.
Is this another compliment, Sam? Are you going to talk about how handsome he is?
No,
for the
I don't
first
have
half
enough.
Of the compliment?
I don't have a back half compliment, and I can't go with the good looking thing right now. And he seems like a good dad, but I'm not going to like cheapen out there. So here's what I'm going to say. You did a wonderful job of making sure to win these baseball games and also try and keep the bullpen not totally overworked, like not having guys have to pitch all 3 games. So good on that, Rocco. But I have to ask, the enigma that is Rocco Baldelli, Dan. Game 3, bottom 8, you have 2 chances to pinch hit when it makes sense. Like, for the first time in your life, Rocco, you can pinch hit when everybody would agree with you that pinch hitting is the right call.
Hang on a minute. We could use a pinch.
And you don't pull the trigger. You have Jeffers on the bench who has been swinging a hot bat. You could have pinched him for Vasquez or for Larnach. So with Vasquez, it was 1 on and no out. And then for Larnach, it's 2 on, 1 out. And there's a lefty on the mound.
Stunned. I was stunned he didn't pinch him there.
Baffled. I understand that Larnach hit a homer, and I know that we're saying you got to let your best hitter hit, but that's what we're talking about when you're pinching Vasquez for Larnach, not when you're pinching Jeffers for Larnach. Like, you have to understand there's a difference here when I say, hey, let's give lefties more at-bats, when you have a capable right-handed bat on the bench waiting for their turn. I just don't understand you, Rocco.
Now they brought it backward! Tell them to turn it around!
When I saw him not pinch for Larnach, I actually looked at the splits for, I forget who the reliever was at the time, and I thought, is there something here? There was not something there. I even thought, bring in Jonah Bride. Like, I was really surprised that he let Larnach take that at bat. Now, Larnach was competitive in that bat. I think he struck out on the 6th or 7th pitch. Like, I don't necessarily mind that he's letting Larnach do that, but I just thought, this is inconsistent. If Rocco's going to be consistent about his decision-making, this did not fit the pattern.
No. Well, let's go here, Dan. Minnesota moment on to happier times.
Minnesota moment.
So game 1, bottom 5 is when Correa hits the home run. I think it's 458 feet. It's the longest of the season. It's one of those where Correa went up and got a pitch high in the zone and just whacked it into the second deck. The timing of this was funny though, because Aaron Gleeman had just written an article on The Athletic about how bad Correa has been and kind of supposing that his wrist is really, really bothering him, but he's not saying anything about it. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Carlos Correa right now. Like, is he better, or is this wrist injury lingering? Because it seemed like Gleeman made a pretty good case that this really is a problem, but then Correa came out and had a pretty good series.
He had a good game 1.
Yeah, maybe.
We're going to talk about game 2 and game 3 in a moment. I'm going to look to game 3, bottom 8. Brooks Lee's 2-run, 2-out double, which is after Rocco refused to pinch hit for Larnach or for Vasquez. But a beautiful story arc here, Dan. I know you, as the English teacher, would appreciate what Brooks Lee went through. First of all, he had a terrible day at the plate. He's 0 for 3. He commits an error that leads to a run that should have been a double play. And this is like, I don't know where we are here, Dan. We're not to the climax of the story, right? But we're in the rising action.
Yes,
rising
definitely.
action.
Yeah.
Yes, when all of these things are happening. And so we're understanding Royce, while the action is rising, his feelings are dropping, right? Like, that's what's happening here. But then, Dan, we get to the climax.
How can you not be romantic about baseball?
He gets up, bottom of the 8th, tie game, 2 outs, 2 guys on, and he connects on a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, middle, hits it to left center, scoring 2 runs. And that guy, Dan, I think he had an out-of-body experience that everybody else could see. Like, you could see Brooks Lee's body floating above Brooks Lee on second base as he screamed out, just as Kevin Garnett did after he won the NBA championship, "Anything is possible!"
My back!
That's really what he was saying. it was a cool moment. And I'm going to talk about that later, actually, when I get to my grades and I've got a rubric and all this. They need Brooks Lee to be good like that. So that was a good sign.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's Musings.
So let's touch back on Correa here for a minute.
Sure.
Let's take game one out of the equation, okay? Because the Twins were firing on all cylinders. They won 9-1. Everybody's hyped. The Wolves are playing. You got Royce back. You got Willie back. Let's just look at game two and game three. And Dan, I am convinced if you took an overlay of every single Carlos Correa at bat in these games and you just put them one on top of another, you wouldn't be able to distinguish what happened. It's all one play. It's a slow dribbler to third base and Correa trotting down the line before he got thrown out. Even the home run in game one, I know we were taking that out of the equation here. If we just look at that, I'm driving home from the stadium and I'm listening to the game notes and the recap after the fact. Also, total side note here, I have stopped when I'm like out and about and I need to be listening on the radio. I don't listen on the radio. I put the game on TV on my phone and I listen to Provis and Morneau or whoever else
poor
is in
Chris
the booth.
Atterbury. Is that how low he is now?
Dude, I can't do it. Chris Atterbury and Glenn Perkins in the booth. I might cheer for a different team, honestly. Like, I just can't. But so like even today, like I'm listening and I just have it in my pocket and I have the video. My cell phone battery is dying. Just every minute it's just screaming for relief. But I'm like, I refuse to listen to the radio broadcast. I'm going to listen to Provis. What was I talking about? Anyway, okay. Yeah, they were talking in the post-game notes though about how even on the home run that Correa hit, his swing didn't look normal. It was a very short, compact swing. So part of me thinks the only reason he was able to pull off that home run is because he altered his swing enough where it wasn't going to make his wrist just scream with pain. So my question, Dan, is would you just shut him down for a little bit, give him a quick stint on the 10-day and see if he can bounce back and figure out what's going on?
I mean, you do have capable backup shortstops now with Castro back, Brooks Lee, who purportedly can play shortstop, but it's like they never bother to use him there. It's not the worst idea. He's not hitting well. Like, it's not like you're missing his bat. Defensively, he's been great, obviously, but like you could probably do without. You got enough other leaders on the team right now on the defense. You got Royce playing over there at third now. I think that's not the worst idea. My question is, well, I have two. First, do you want to revise your path to 500 here for the Twins? Because they are now, 2 or 3 games up on your prediction.
It's pretty impressive, actually, what they've done. And no, I refuse to touch it because I think it's really important that we understand my mindset at the time when I put those notes together. Because to me, whenever they're ahead of what my prediction is, it just makes me feel so much better about this team. And if I start revising it every time they outperform what I'm expecting them to do, it really cheapens the exercise, Dan.
That's fair. Okay, so then I'll ask this question. Is Jhoan Duran really this good again? His ERA is like just barely over 1. He's hitting all of his spots. He looks like an all-star closer right now.
I am so nervous that if the Twins aren't competitive, that he'll be gone at the deadline. But he is so good and he's so fun to watch. If you don't follow Pitching Ninja on X, you have to. It's one of the best follows on X for sure. But he had a breakdown of Duran's pitches in a couple of these innings and just where the ball sits for the longest time before it splits off in opposite directions depending on the pitch. I don't understand how anybody ever hits a baseball coming out of that guy's hand.
I think they are going to be competitive. I think after this series, and we saw what the bullpen did, we saw the lineup capacity and its virtuosity in various places. I do think this is a better baseball team, especially with Royce and Willie Castro back in, just the depth that gives them. I am hopeful that that's not going to happen, that doomsday scenario of trading Duran.
Okay, well, I'm real excited to get to your rubric, Dan, so let's do it.
Series grades.
Now, hang on here, Dan. Let me open my Diet Pepsi.
Yes.
Not sponsored, but Pepsi, if you're listening, we're interested. So let me get comfortable here, Dan, and hit us with this new rubric. I'm very, very excited to critique it.
All right, so I had a few minutes today to finally finish this up. And so I came up with 5 categories. If you recall, previously I had like the 5 tools of baseball. So like fielding, power hitting, contact hitting, base running, and the other one. What's the 5th one? I'm forgetting.
Those aren't even the right ones that you said already, Dan. Why don't you start over?
Anyway, no, I'm not gonna. That's what I had. It probably evolved over the season. It's fine. So I came up with 5 new ones here. And I started with this one. Momentum, right? So did the team build or lose momentum over the course of the season or over the course of the series, right? Decision making, which I think comes down to a lot of things. It covers what Rocco has done, but it also covers like base running, and it covers, do you throw to the right base defensively, things like that. And then 3 other ones where did the stars perform? Did the mids perform?
Ooh.
And did the youth perform?
I like that.
So I'm going with kind of 3 different things there, and I started it on a scale from -2 to 2, like with like a pendulum swing, but I didn't quite know how to do the math in the end, so I ended up just going back to a 1 to 5 scale. But if you can imagine that a 1 is like a backwards move and a 5 is a forwards move, so to speak. Are you with me so far?
As good as I'm going to get,
okay.
I think, Dan. Yeah.
All right. So with this series, so momentum definitely. Whatever we call it, the best one, right? A +2, right? So
I thought you said you went to 5.
Well, I'm going to go with the +2 because I like the pendulum metaphor. So +2, you won 3 in a row at home. You turned around a streak against the Orioles. Decision making. I thought that Rocco made the right decisions, but I also thought there weren't a lot of gaffes on the base running. There were great fielding plays. I like that. Byron Buxton as a star was great. Carlos Correa at least hit the big home run. Royce Lewis returned, didn't do much, but I think Byron's play overshadows that. The mids, your Ty Francis, your Ryan Jefferses, I thought performed very admirably and did what they needed to do.
Jefferses.
I know. And then the youth, Brooks Lee's play gave me all of the hope. And I was actually looking, with guys like Luke Keeschel not playing.
I have magic hair that glows when I sing.
They don't have a lot of young guys actually trying to contribute. Maybe Louis Varland, who had a pretty good series. So anyway, all of that is to say, all of that added up, if I transferred it back to the 1 to 5 scale, as a 24 out of 25, which is an A.
I'll tell you the truth. I'm a little confused by your tactics.
I'm glad you got to an A, Dan. That's what it should be. I can't say I followed all of that, but I'm sure as the season progresses, I'll start to understand it a little bit. Please, I will say I do really like the stars, mids, youth thing.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of that piece. Also, Louis Varland, we have to talk about this. First of all, at the beginning of the season, we had this whole Louis versus Louis bit that I'm still not fully confident in what he wants to be called, because when you're at the stadium, it sounds like they are saying Louis when he's coming in. But they created this package, Dan, where they have him green in all of the videos, and it's Louis Hulk or like Louis Smash. Were you aware of this? Like, I'm there at the game with Hogs, and Hogs and I are both looking at each other.
Were you with Hogs at that point?
No, but like we were sitting so close. Yeah, we were like we could look at each other and understand what was happening. And we're looking at each other like, what is this? What's this now? Like, he's the Hulk? When did that become a thing? Like, there's not a pun there, right? Like, there's no Hulk pun. There's no Bruce Banner pun that you're making on Louis Varland's name. He already tried to change his name once. And so I'm wondering, is Louis just trying to change his name just a little bit until it gets to Hulk? What's happening here, Dan?
I think Harrison Bader would fit the Hulk a little bit better, wouldn't he?
Yes.
He's got the build for it, right? I'm not buying the Louis as Hulk comparison just yet.
I mean, he does look a little bit yoked. Like, he does look like he works out, certainly. But I guess calling him Hulk just feels really, really forced. Bader as the Ultimate Warrior, though, does make a little bit more sense. I mean, so we have to figure out how to figure Jim Thomey's name, the Ultimate Warrior, and Harrison Bader all into one sort of conglomerate. I mean, it's really become an LLC at this point, whatever name we call Harrison Bader. Sorry. Wow. Wandering a bit here, Dan. I'm going to give him...
I thought you already gave him the grade.
No, I didn't. I just commented on yours and then started talking about other
ahead.
stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm hyped up on Diet Pepsi, Dan. So I'm going to give him an A here. You're beating the bad teams. You beat a decent team in the Red Sox. Really, the question is now, what do you do against the Giants? You're home. Are you going to be able to perform? I don't really know. I'm really excited to watch this series and see how they do. I do wish the bullpen would have gotten a little bit more rest out of this, but I'm hopeful, Dan, that somehow Chris Paddock and Joe Ryan are going to go deep into games. Joe Ryan with an IV between innings probably, and Chris Paddock with, I don't know what to expect out of Chris Paddock. Just do something, my friend.
Well, both of them, David, are hardworking men. And Duke Cannon makes high-quality grooming products for hardworking men just like this. They're Minnesota-based. They have an all-new look. Their clean new packaging features the Big D is unmistakable on the shelves. Whether you go for a brick of soap, some thick body wash, deodorant, hair care, beard care, or cologne, Duke Cannon will have you smelling your best. Look for that Big D at Target, Walmart, Amazon, or DukeCannon.com. Once you try it, you'll be hooked. Work harder, smell better. Duke Cannon.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's Headlines.
So first of all, Dan, the White Sox are not good at baseball.
They're not.
And there are times when we watch our Twins and we say, how are they going to find a way to lose this game? This one might take the cake here. So it's the White Sox and the Royals. And the White Sox get walked off by the Royals soon after second baseman Chase Meadroth misses a pop-up that bounces off of his head, Dan. How is that possible?
I've seen Little League plays that look just like that. Now, at least it wasn't that play, but it allowed some other plays to happen where the Royals were able to do that. They looked pretty dreadful. Their record, by the way, is not as bad as the Rockies. You mentioned the Rockies earlier. The Rockies are like 6-29 this year. They're on pace to actually be worse than the White Sox were last year.
That's rough. My other note here, Dan, Javi Baez for the Tigers, now an outfielder, no longer an infielder, somehow, Dan, has returned to form and is looking like the Javi Baez of several years ago.
Yeah, looking at his last games, he's got 4 games in a row with multiple hits. He's on an 8-game hitting streak. This guy, I'm glad for him, right? Because he went to Detroit, he signed this big contract, and he's like batting 9th for like years. Now, it seems like just kind of banished to the bottom. So that is pretty cool. I just have one other note. It's Twins adjacent, but former Twins bench coach Derek Shelton has been fired from the job as Pirates manager. He'd been holding that job for a number of years now, but without a winning season. That's another franchise where it's like, you wish that the Pirates could turn it around. They have that beautiful ballpark, and they just can't quite put a good baseball team in it.
No, and they have Paul Skeens, and they have O'Neill.
Yeah.
Like, there's guys on that roster, Dan, who can perform and be leaders, but they just can't seem to be able to put it together. One quick note that I have here about F1. So the F1 race last weekend was in Miami, and it turns out Oscar Piastri, the driver for McLaren, was hanging out with Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson taught him how to griddy, and he told Justin Jefferson that he would do the griddy if he won the race. Oscar is Australian. I thought they had a little bit more rhythm. Nope. Folks, go watch this video of Oscar Piastri trying to griddy, and I am no dancer, Dan. I am no dancer. I will not dance for anybody. But you would think that Oscar Piastri was having some sort of medical emergency. It does not look like a griddy at all, Dan.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
Okay, well, we should move forward here. Let's do Puckett's Picks for the Giants series.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Puckett's Picks.
The listeners, Dan, are going to stick with Buxton, which is really not that surprising because that man is absolutely crushing. Then it goes to you, Dan.
Well, so originally I had made a selection here.
Oh.
But I'm gonna back after all of that talk about Carlos Correa and the rich analysis you gave. I'm actually gonna switch my pick. Now I'm gonna go to somebody that I don't think that either of you would have picked. I'm gonna go with Willie Castro. I'm just gonna back all the way down because I do think that maybe Castro is the safer bet here than wrist man Carlos Correa.
I kind of thought you were going to go with Ty France, to be honest with you. So interesting. I'm going to go then with Royce Lewis. I think he's going to turn it around. I think he was just getting back into the swing of things. He's going to be ready, Dan. He's going to hit big against the Giants.
And that leaves Hogs to pick last, and he picks Larnach. A solid pick, obviously coming off a good series, and at least he's trusted to face lefties now.
Maybe. I don't imagine that's sort of a long-term thing, but I suppose it's a possibility, Dan.
Well, David, we'll be back for a recap on Sunday of this Giants series. Hopefully, we're talking about another series win for the Twins. How about you go ahead and send us out?
Will do. Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win and find our Min for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform so that you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. Link in the description. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Min for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.